about 500 horses.
No way.
Horses. She
Oh,
Oh, look at them.
she should know.
People watching is great, food is better. So it was about lunchtime, they had a cook shack on site, and we were off to see what we could find for food.
You got a step stool.
I did it. You just step over. That's not fair.
Hey, you want out? I got it open here.
Or you can open the gate.
Yeah. Why would you do that though? That's too easy.
I didn't want to deal with the hassle. Good job, Jeff.
Well, with my leg, I'm not.
Yeah, of course.
I've been doing some of this.
You're doing good work. Took a horse roundup to do it, but finally got Icelandic hot dog. Let's see how it goes. They're called pilsa, and they're everywhere. Gas stations, food trucks, festivals, and fancy places pretending they're not fancy. But Icelandic hot dogs are low-key one of Iceland's greatest culinary flexes. Unlike US hot dogs, pilsur, as they are known for the plural terminology, are traditionally made from lamb. The lamb base gives them a richer, slightly gamey flavor, but still super approachable. I loved it. They're usually grilled on a flat top or open grill, but they're sometimes boiled first, then grilled. They're served in a soft white bun that's slightly sweet. If you want to sound like you know what you're doing when you order it, you can use this phrase, which basically means one with everything, which includes raw white onions, fried crispy onions, sweet brown mustard, ketchup, and a mayo-based sauce with pickles and capers. I don't remember that being an option when I ordered mine, to be honest. But I got mine with fried crispy onions, the sweet brown mustard, and ketchup, and it was amazing. I really liked it. I'm a big fan of lamb, so this was a win for me. Icelanders eat millions of pilsur a year, despite the small population. Lamb hot dogs reflect Iceland's long history of sheep farming, and you can buy them at IKEA in Iceland. And yes, people have opinions about them. Icelandic hot dogs are simple, iconic, and way better than they have any right to be. They're not a novelty, they're a national staple.
I'm really excited to see the roundup, but there's also an auction, so people are going to be buying horses, so that's going to be pretty fun to watch. Not participate. That's not happening.
People have horses to buy.
Are you buying a horse?
No, I heard divorces are expensive.
Oh, we've arrived at the roundup where Liz has a 12% chance of buying a horse.
it is getting higher by the moment.
What's the percentage you'll buy a horse?
0.
What's the percentage you'll buy a horse?
4%.
2%.
Oh, wow. Whoa. Anybody else? 1%? Anybody else buying a horse today? No. 1%. Laura's really concerned about where the dappled bay
Yeah, I
went.
was really concerned.
You got your eyes on that one?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Make an offer, take it home
She's
with
up
me.
to 1% chance now.
Yeah, it will be my my carry-on.
Perfect. Fans at home want to know, you bought your horse yet?
No, still really thinking about it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do see this really cute little guy over here, though. Oh, look, he's about to drink himself. That kind of thing. Oh, and his mom said most of these horses are just from the farms in the valley. Our valley is just the valley behind the hill. We are missing 3 horses that didn't come down on our roundup. 2. Only 2. And oftentimes, if they're missing, they end up here because they just kind of cross the mountain and end up with the different herds. We will look for 2 horses tomorrow.
So I just spoke to the farm owner because they have a couple horses that are missing. They're hoping they'll show up here. You know, they just went over the mountain or jumped a fence or something. But yeah, it turns out that if they're not here, they show up eventually. They show up in a different herd, or you know, they'll go up in the mountains and kind of look for them. But their largest predator here is the Arctic fox. So not a lot to worry about there. Kind of cool. Fun fact to know.
All purebred Icelandic horses born in Iceland must be microchipped for breed registry and identification purposes. This is a sharp contrast to the United States, where microchipping horses is still relatively uncommon, especially outside of thoroughbred racing and USEF competition horses. While the occurrence of microchips in US horses is increasing, it still remains uncommon, with only about 1 to 2% of horses being microchipped, outside specialized or regulated groups.
Questionable ownership. What could go wrong?
I think there was fistfights before microchips. Has to
I thought this was kind of cool to watch it in action because whenever they had a doubt about whose horse belonged to who, they just scanned them with a little beeper thing and voila! It told them all the information they needed to know about the horse, who it was owned by, and which farm it needed to go back to. Horse breeding in Iceland is a big deal, culturally, historically, and economically, and it's shaped by some rules you won't see anywhere else. For instance, the Icelandic horse is the only breed bred in Iceland. Since around 982 AD, Iceland has enforced a strict ban on importing horses. That means today's Icelandic horses are direct descendants of the horses brought by Viking settlers, genetically isolated for over 1,000 years. Once a horse leaves Iceland, it can never return, to protect the population from disease. Icelandic breeders today aren't chasing size or speed. They focus on strong, compact conformation for rough terrain, soundness and longevity, because many are ridden well into their 20s, excellent temperament, they're calm, willing, and people-oriented horses, and quality gaits, especially the tolt and fine pace. Gait quality is heavily weighted, but only if it comes with balance and rideability. Most Icelandic horses are 5-gaited or 4-gaited, and breeders carefully match stallions and mares to reinforce a clear rhythmic tolt, a strong pace for horses bred for racing or competition, and breeding decisions often factor in known gait inheritance and performance test results, not just pedigree prestige. Many broodmares live in large herds, often roaming vast grazing areas, sometimes year-round, sometimes seasonally. So foals grow up on uneven ground, in harsh weather, and with minimal human interference. This environment naturally selects for hardiness, strong hooves, and good bone, traits that are hallmarks of the Icelandic horse breed. Iceland uses a highly organized evaluation system, the FEIF system, where horses are judged on conformation and ridden ability, and scores are recorded in WorldFengur, the global Icelandic horse database. Breeding values, BLUP scores, help predict what traits a horse is likely to pass on. This data-driven approach keeps breeding transparent and remarkably consistent across the country. For many Icelandic farms, breeding is a core agricultural income, a multi-generational tradition, and closely tied to tourism, sport, and export. Top horses are exported worldwide, often after several years of training. Export value is one of Iceland's notable agricultural exports. Compared to many countries, artificial insemination for breeding purposes is limited. Natural cover is more common, and foaling is typically low intervention. The result is a population known for fertility, easy foaling, and durability. The Icelandic horse breed is so unique because it's one of the rare cases where there's a national breeding strategy, fueled by harsh natural conditions and all assimilated under strong cultural pride, where all the people are working together to preserve a horse that looks and moves much like it did 1,000 years ago. The FEIF breeding standard, which stands for Fédération Internationale des Éleveurs de Chevaux Islandais, I think. In English, it's the International Federation of Icelandic Horse Associations. They oversee sport rules, breeding standards, and international consistency for the Icelandic horse. And the breeding evaluation is a formal judging of a horse's genetic and functional quality, not just how flashy it looks on a given day. Horses are evaluated on conformation and structure, as well as ridden abilities, so gaits and rideability. The scores are used to determine breeding value, not competition placings. It's broken up into several parts. Part 1 being a conformation evaluation, where they're judged in hand or at liberty on traits such as head, neck, withers, shoulders, back and croup, proportions, legs, hooves, and even mane and tail. Yes, really. Each trait is scored on a 5 to 10 scale, usually in 0.5 increments, and these scores predict durability, soundness, and movement potential. The second part is based on ridden ability evaluation, where they're judged under saddle by a certified FEIF judge. The gaits are scored for the walk, trot, Tolt, flying pace in 5-gated horses, and canter. Other key traits that are focused on are spirit, general impression, willingness and temperament, and again, everything is scored on a 5 to 10, with heavy emphasis on clarity of gait, balance, self-carriage, and ease for the rider. Scores are weighted and combined into conformation score, rideability score, and total breeding score. The benchmarks people care about is looking at a score of 8 or more for a solid breeding horse, 8.5 or more for high-quality breeding animal. A score of 9 or more would be a horse that is elite, rare, and internationally influential. A score of 9 or greater in a single trait, like Tolt or Spirit, is a very big deal. All FEIF evaluations are stored in WorldFengur, the global Icelandic horse database. From this data, horses receive a BLUP score. These scores reflect statistical predictions of what traits a horse is likely to pass on, and is based on relatives, offspring, and performance trends. Breeders rely on these scores as much as or more than the horse's own score. FEIF evaluations guide stallion selection, influence export value, and shape long-term genetic health of the breed. They keep standards consistent worldwide and prevent fashion breeding that ignores soundness or temperament. In Iceland, a top FEIF score can make a stallion internationally sought after, dramatically increase a horse's export price, and influence breeding decisions for decades. FEIF evaluations are not competitions. Horses are judged against the ideal Icelandic horse, not each other. A calm, correct horse often scores better than a dramatic but tense one. FEIF breeding evaluations are the backbone of Icelandic horse breeding, a blend of tradition, biomechanics, genetics, and data science that keeps the breed remarkably consistent worldwide. BLUP stands for Best Linear Unbiased Prediction. Again, it's a statistical method used to predict a horse's genetic breeding value. In other words, how likely is this horse to pass specific traits on to its offspring? And it goes beyond how the horse itself performs. It combines huge amounts of data, including the horse's own FEIF evaluation scores, the scores of parents, siblings, and offspring, and environmental factors like age, location, judge trends, and year, and is based on population-wide genetic trends. The goal is to isolate genetics, not training or presentation. The BLUP in Icelandic horses is calculated and published in WorldFengur. It's expressed as a number around 100. 100 is the breeding average, 110 or more is significantly above average, and horses that score 115 to 120 or above are elite breed-shaping genetics. Breeders trust this process because it rewards consistency, not one-off performances, and helps avoid breeding purely to fashion. It encourages long-term soundness and temperament, and is especially valuable when choosing stallions used on many mares. In short, the BLUP is a data-driven prediction of how good a horse will be as a parent, not just how good it is as a performer. WorldFengur is the official global database for Icelandic horses, basically the record book for the entire breed worldwide. If a horse is truly an Icelandic horse, it's in WorldFengur. WorldFengur is a centralized registry for Icelandic horses that's managed under FEIF. It's used by breeders, judges, veterinarians, and registries across the countries. It functions as a mix of stud book, performance record, and genetic analysis tool. It's used in over 40 countries, but maintains Iceland as the genetic reference population. Exported horses remain in the database for life, even though they can never return to Iceland. So a horse in Oregon, Germany, or Sweden is still genetically tied back to Iceland through WorldFengur. It serves as the living global memory of the Icelandic horse breed, every pedigree, score, and genetic trend in one place. As I've mentioned several times previously, exporting horses is one of the largest agricultural commodities in Iceland. In 2024, Iceland exported 1,318 live horses to 19 countries worldwide. Exports include a mix of leisure horses, breeding stock, competition prospects, young horses, yearlings, and foals. Over the years, export numbers have fluctuated. At times, they've been significantly higher. For example, record years in the 1990s saw over 2,600 to 2,800 horses annually exported. In 2017, about 1,485 horses were exported, which is nearly 40% of that year's foal crop. And around 2020, there was a notable surge to about 2,320 exported horses, a 53% yearly increase. Exported horses mainly go to the following countries. Germany is typically the largest importer, often about 40 to 45% of exports. Denmark and Sweden are also major markets, and Austria and other European nations round out most destinations. Global trade data for 2023 confirms exports of over 1,170 horses, valued at about $5.57 million US, with Germany receiving over half of that volume, 577 horses. Interest in markets outside of Europe, especially the United States and occasionally Canada, has also grown, though numbers remain small compared to core European markets. Over a recent decade, from 2007 to 2019, Iceland exported horses worth roughly 10 to 10.9 billion Icelandic kronos, which is about 79 million US dollars in total. Most of that value comes from purebred breeding stock, which accounted for about 73% of the export value, with riding horses making up about 24%. From the 2024 export group, 55% were male and 45% were female. 20% were older than 8 years old, 58% were 4 to 8 years old, and 22% were younger than 4 years. A portion of these export horses had full FEIF breeding evaluations, important for buyers focused on genetics and performance. Now, I've also mentioned earlier that Iceland prohibits importing horses, and even genetic material like semen and embryos are limited to protect the health of the native population. Horses that are exported can never return to Iceland. Like anything else, export numbers vary with global demand, exchange rates, and transport logistics. For example, availability of safe horse cargo space. There's a trend towards higher value individual sales instead of large bulk purchases by traders. Horses are transported out of Iceland exclusively by air. There is no sea transport for live horses due to welfare and biosecurity concerns. Horses travel on cargo aircraft, usually from Keflavik, and are shipped in special air stalls holding 2 to 3 horses. Flights are typically either direct to Europe or, in the case of the United States, to JFK, and then horses continue by road if needed. Before departure, strict veterinary health checks occur, quarantine and documentation per destination country, and careful scheduling to minimize stress. During transport, horses are monitored by experienced handlers, and flights are kept as short as possible. Welfare standards are tightly regulated, and after export, they enter quarantine or inspection per importing country rules. Air transport is the safest, fastest, and least stressful option for horses leaving an island nation with one of the world's strictest animal health policies.